I got a little interrupted. That's what happens when you teach and you leave your door unlocked. So I locked the door so we can finish this problem and then go over maybe a couple of the examples. So where we were was we multiplied -7 and 3. So what multiplies to -21 and what adds to 20? We decided it was -1 and +21. So those go into our missing boxes. Remember, first and last go into our first and last boxes. And then we just finish out by doing GCFs by column and by rows. So the GCF of this first column is X. The GCF of that, the second column is 7. Now we do our rows. The GCF is 3X and 1. Okay, but if you notice, they're both negatives, so that gives us a hint that the GCF is actually a -1. And then I also wrote, I didn't do it there, but I did do it at the top of the other page, and that was you can always check by using your box. So you can always check 7 times 3x is 21x, x times 3x is 3x squared, x times -1 is -1x, and 7 times -1 is -7. So I know they're right. You don't even have to ask anyone. You can know if you're right or not. So then the two factors, we just write them as our two binomials, are x plus 7 and 3x minus 1. And again, we like to write them side by side if we can, so I squeezed that one in. Alright, so then I want you to try the guided practice on page 260. These are the 3 problems. So I'm going to go ahead and just work them out so that you can check yourself. But I would recommend that maybe you pause it and you try them and then you just go back to the video to see if you're on the right track. But again, it's going to take 3 parts, so I'm going to kind of have to squeeze it in so that I have enough room. Okay, the biggest thing you need to remember is that it's last times first that goes into the top of that box. So that's going to change to a -21 and a -20. Well, that's nice, because that's really similar to what we've already done over there, except for our signs are the other way. So, if I think about it, it's going to be the opposite of that one. A +1 and a -21. Okay, so that means those go into our box. Remember, don't use these. First is 7x squared. Last is -3. And now these two go into our box, but don't forget that they should have x's with them. Alright, so 1x and -21x. I think it's actually going to look a lot like that one. Well, the terms are switched, so we'll find out. Alright, this one is a 7x. Be careful when you do your GCF. Don't divide, but do GCF. That's a 1. That's an x, and that's a -3. Don't divide them. Ask what can be divided out, okay? They're both negative, so it makes that negative. So, 7x plus 1 and x minus 3. And so it's kind of like that one. The signs are different. Our terms are kind of in different places, but alright, let's go again. Last times first goes into our box. Into our x. So that'll be a 15 instead and adds to 16. They're both going to be positive since we multiplied by positive. Oh, there's another lunch bell. Hopefully no one will interrupt. Okay, they're both positive. This one's easier than you think because it's 1 and 15. Don't ever forget about the ones. So it's 1 and 15. So those are going to go into our box. Don't forget, do not use these. Use our first and our last. So 5z squared and a 3. And then we're going to throw these in. And we're going to include the variable with it. So 15z and 1z. And then we'll get our GCF from there. Oops. I did it in the backwards color, but that's okay. So the GCF of here is 5z. Don't divide, but find the GCF. GCF of that is 1. The GCF of that is a z. And this is a 3. Again, don't divide, but ask what can each divide by. And then you can double check yourself. That's right, that is right, and that is right. So I know that I have done it right, and that it's 5z plus 1 and z plus 3. Okay? So those are our two factors. So now we go to our last one. We multiply first to last, goes in there. So that's a 6 and a 1. Okay? Now ask yourself about the signs. They're going to be positive because two positives multiply to a positive, and they add to a positive. But then when we start to think about the numbers, we're thinking, okay, well, 3 and 2 multiply to 6, but they add to 5. If they were opposites, it would work, but since they're supposed to be the same, it won't. 1 and 6, they add to 7. So, because the number is so small, we automatically can tell that it is actually not going to have any pairs. So that means we can't do the other parts. So the word we used to describe that final answer is prime. Okay, so again, you can come across prime anywhere, but most of the time we're going to go through all of those different parts. All right, so I think we have a little bit more, and then hopefully you'll be squared away.